I get to run the last lap to the finish line. Tēnā koutou katoa, tēnā koe te kingi tō hatia na iwi o tainui. Tēnā koutou, raurana tira, mana hui hui mai nei. It is indeed a privilege and an honor to address the assembly this afternoon. I am Arnie Kumar and I work for the Department of Corrections. And I embed literacy and numeracy in the National Certificate in Agriculture Levels 2 and Levels 3 program at Spring Hill Corrections Facility. Prior to coming to Spring Hill Corrections Facility about 2 months ago, I was at Dongrino Ranipur Prison for a little over 2 years in a similar role. My class comprises of predominantly Maori and Pacific Islanders coming from very poor socioeconomic background. They have very strong gang affiliations, have limited or nil work experiences, therefore poor work ethics, and who see crime as the only way of life. Most have very limited formal education. And it is indeed a challenge for me to teach an academic course to a group of non-academic people. However, I took my training with ALEC and it is now making my job much more enjoyable. So the process that I use, apart from using the TDC assessment tools, I have also developed 3 contextualized diagnostic assessments, first of which is the vocabulary fitness test. I did this by identifying very difficult words in my text, including farming-specific words, and then brainstormed with other colleagues to classify these words into the 6 TDC steps. As a rough guide, I also used an online vocabulary profiler, which literally sorted those words into the word frequency levels. I then used those words in sentences, and learners were supposed to supply the missing words in at higher levels, higher steps. They were given starters. The next 2 contextualized diagnostic tools were in numeracy, specifically measuring and interpreting shape and space strand and making sense of number strand. Again, this was developed from the TDC numeracy progressions. And what I did was just contextualize the questions for each step based on what a learner, from my perception, should be able to do with these steps. So when the learner could not answer any question correctly, a matrix correlated that question to a particular step and skill. Apart from helping me map the learner, I was able to identify very specific literacy and numeracy issues pertaining to the learner and my course. And some of the literacy and numeracy issues identified were place values, reading comprehension, vocabulary, working out area and volumes of 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional shapes, spellings, conversions, percentages, fractions and ratios. Now these are significant issues in my course because learners are required to be able to read and comprehend text and to write answers to assessments. They also need to be able to work out volumes of silage pits, of water tanks, of sprays. They also need to be able to work out areas of pellets and pans to work out stocking rates, calculate dry matter availability to feed their stock. They also need to be able to know ratios, fractions and percentages to work out pesticides, fertilizer application rates and drenches. Plus, they also need to be able to calculate the spacing of wires on the fence before they are able to put the fence together. So there are a lot of literacy and numeracy issues that the learner needs to know before they can begin to learn. Hence came the need to develop some literacy, numeracy embedded resources, and these need to be done within the constraints of the existing training budget, because there is no extra funding for this. And it's too important an issue to be dealt with later. So I used scrap material from the engineering and painting workshops and came up with some resources that now help my learners to comprehend and learn better. This fencing jig helps me to teach fencing skills inside the classroom. Prisoners cannot go outside the security perimeter fence because of their security classification. Therefore, using this jig, they are able to learn to tie knots. They are able to learn to use the wire strainer and to work out the wire spacings. And then they are able to apply this when they do get an opportunity to go outside into prison farms. These two-dimensional and three-dimensional shapes help me teach the concept of area and volume. They use this and trace it, outline it onto a square rule page. And they put it aside and they count the number of squares to understand what area is. Then they discover that a right angle triangle is literally half of the rectangle. And then all of a sudden it starts making sense why the formula for calculating the area of a triangle is half length times width. They also learn that different basic shapes can combine in different ways to make different complex shapes in which they find their parents. So they are able to work out the area of parents by breaking it down into very simple basic shapes. The 3D shapes, these cubes, help them to understand, comprehend volume. They are able to know that volume is measured in cubic units, and how many of these cubic units will form a layer, and how many of these layers make up a cube. So they understand, they comprehend volume. And the same thing happens with volumes of triangles, which put this way resembles a silent pit. So they learn that if they calculate the area of the basic shape and multiply by height, they will be able to calculate the volume of any object. This cubic meter is a visual illustration of what we mean by a cubic meter. I asked my learner how many cubic meters of topsoil would fit onto the normal trailer of a car, and the answer was 5, which made me think whether I asked the right question. I'm pretty sure I didn't ask how much it takes to bury it. These resources, though simple, have a huge impact on my teaching. It makes my learners to be more actively involved. And I don't have any behavior problems with them for the entire 6 hours they are with me in the classroom, which to me is an achievement in itself, given the fact that these people were never used to sit and learn in the classroom. And now they are actively involved in learning. They never used to believe that they can achieve an academic qualification. At Tongariro prison, a prisoner who was in my class and who was about to be released came up to me and said, "Mister, can I stay for extra 6 months so that I can complete the course? Now to me, that is testimony to the fact that a little intervention in literacy and numeracy goes a long way in motivating someone. All of a sudden, this guy realized that he can do what he thought he couldn't do. All of a sudden, he was able to unlock that literacy and numeracy issue that had been bothering him since he was a child, that stopped his every progress. All of a sudden, he had a renewed self-esteem and self-worth. All of a sudden, he realized the potential that the 3 million people his ancestors had put in him. Ladies and gentlemen, not all of my learners may become farmers, but I have taught them a very important skill, the skill to be able to learn. And I believe that embedding literacy and numeracy in my course does make a difference in the lives of my prisoners. And it is that satisfaction that makes me want to go back to work the next day. Thank you.